You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's me, Tracy Turnblad, from Hairspray, Broadway's Tony Award-winning Best Musical, and we're dancing our way to your city. Don't miss Hairspray.
Hey y'all, welcome to Bella's Broadway Breakdown, a podcast dedicated to breaking down key themes in film adaptations of Broadway shows, one musical at a time, with your host, me, Bella Chard. Whether you're a fellow theater nerd or somebody who happened to find my podcast by mistake, I hope you enjoy what I've created. I grew up with a mother who adored musicals and passed her theater-loving genes onto my sisters and I. My personal appreciation for musicals, and particularly Lin-Manuel Miranda, is what made me want to create this podcast. I really didn't get into musicals until 8th grade, right around the time Hamilton became super popular, especially in my history class. That year, I also discovered Phantom of the Opera in my advanced band class, and I haven't been the same since. Then, in January of sophomore year, my parents took us to see Wicked live at the Pantages Theater in Hollywood, and that did it for me. Over COVID is when I fully immersed myself into everything Broadway. The soundtracks were on repeat, and I probably annoyed my family with it. You could catch me listening to Hamilton, Heathers, Dear Evan Hansen, Six, Mamma Mia, Les Mis, and Anastasia. And to this day, I'm pretty sure that Anastasia is my favorite musical. While each week I'll discuss a different musical, this week we're going to focus on In the Heights, a musical for the multicultural era, as reported by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution.
What does sueñito mean?
Sueñito? It means little dream.
That's it? No story?
All right, everybody sit down. It's a story of a block that was disappearing. In un barrio called Washington Heights. The streets were made of music. I am Usnavi, and you probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated. Morning, Usnavi. Pan caliente, café con leche.
On these blocks, you can't walk 2 steps without bumping into someone's big plan.
I'm making moves, I'm making deals, but guess what? What? You still ain't got no skills. I've been saving up all my pennies in my piggy bank for this day.
This is going to be an emotional roller coaster. The odds are against you.
But there's a chance, right? A dream isn't some sparkly diamond. There's no shortcuts. Sometimes it's rough. I'm a street light choking on the heat. The world spins around while I'm frozen to my seat.
They're talking about kicking out all the dreamers.
But every day is different, so
It's time to make some noise.
We had to assert our dignity in small ways. Shh. Just listen. Little details that tell the world we are not invisible.
Ignore anyone who doubts you.
We came to work and to live, and we got a lot in common. DRPR, we are not stopping. Until the day we go from poverty to stock options. Today's all we got, so we cannot stop. This is our block. In the Heights.
Okay, let's dive right in. Never heard of In the Heights? No problem, I got you. Movie opens up with an 8-minute long intro song where Usnavi, the main male character, narrates 3 days in a record-setting July heatwave in New York. You got fireworks, both literal and of passion, piraguas, which are shaved ice treats native to Puerto Rico, beauty parlor gossip about all of the locals, as well as the challenges, conflicts, and struggles of our main characters as they face problems ranging from dropping out of college because of racism to bankruptcy. All of this amidst a citywide blackout on night 2. Everything from the filming to the production is just done in such a spectacular and creative way. You get brilliant scene cuts like a dramatic scream of anger in a fight which switches to a party time trumpet screech at a club, or even the carefully placed muted silence after the death of the neighborhood matriarch, which continues until the soft beginning of Alabanza, which is like their mourning song, which lets viewers experience the sadness that the characters feel at that very moment. And I know I cry every single time, even though I know it's coming. Did I mention the star-studded cast of this movie? You got Olga Merediz, who plays Abuela Claudia, or the OG Abuela Claudia on Broadway, Christopher Jackson, who plays Mr. Softy in the movie and was the OG Benny on Broadway, Lin-Manuel Miranda, who plays the Piragua guy, or the OG Usnavi on Broadway, as well as some new, more modern celebrities, Corey Hawkins, Leslie Grace, Melissa Barrera, Stephanie Beatriz, Jimmy Smits, Dasha Polis, and Puerto Rican superstar Mark Anthony, who plays Sonny's dad. For Lin-Manuel Miranda, known for Moana, Hamilton, and Encanto, this was his first musical he ever wrote, and he was actually a substitute teacher when he found out it had been picked up for Broadway. The musical hit Broadway in 2008, won a Tony, was transformed into a book, and that got the industry into talks about making it into a movie. But a series of changes in distribution rights pushed filming to 2019, with a planned release in August 2020. Then, a COVID delay ended with the premiere release on June 11, 2021. While it was 13 years in the making, we were delivered a final product with Lin-Manuel Miranda as one of the producers and John M. Chu as the director, known for his other discography like Crazy Rich Asians, both who know a thing or two about merging multiculturalism and romance. Delivered through a vibrant and eccentric environment, the audience sees how In the Heights is successful in representing many cultures and personal backgrounds so that everyone may feel seen, from the cast to the filming locations to the plotline. From the very beginning, the audience is thrown into a world of cultural expectations, as Usnavi gives the audience insight into the daily lives of Washington Heights natives and brushes on the main character's struggles of following their sueñitos, or little dreams. Songs like Breathe, which is sung by the character Nina, touch on her internal conflict of wanting to do well for her friends and family, but trying to find a way to tell them that she dropped out of school. Here, she says, "How can I tell them why I'm coming back home? I'm the one who made their grades. I'm the one who made it out." She's reliving her childhood, taking in that she put in the work so that she could do well and make it big, with her family and friends supporting her every step of the way, but feels guilty about the systematic racism that's the cause of her dropping out, and questions her own feelings on why she is feeling guilty about a hate crime towards her. Besides the racism, her father had begun selling his business so that he could afford to pay for her education. She felt an extreme amount of pressure on her to do well for him, and then, with the financial liability, she realized he could not afford to keep paying, as he was going to face bankruptcy, so she stopped the payments and dropped out. Here we see financial struggle, which is a big problem for the people of Washington Heights, and residents are packing up and leaving town to find a better place to pursue their careers because of it. Here you see the truth behind the culturally stereotypical financial struggle, which many of the townspeople seek to aid by participating in the lottery hosted at Usnavi's Bodega. Financial struggle is a predominant challenge in the movie and musical, so much so that we get an entire song, 96,000, fantasizing winning the lottery, which occurs after Sonny, Usnavi's cousin and partner in running the bodega, gets a call that they've sold the winning ticket.
It's silly when we get into these crazy hypotheticals. You really want some bread, then go ahead, create a set of goals and cross them off the list as you pursue them. And with those 96, I know precisely what I'm doing.
What you doing?
What am I doing? What am I It takes half of that cash just to save my ass from financial ruin. Sonny can keep the coffee brewing. I spend a few on you, cause the only room with the view is a room with you.
Oh my goodness, I wish I could let y'all hear more of this song. There's just so much creative license and crafty penmanship in this one song. The composer really knew what he was doing. Hint, hint, Lin-Manuel Miranda, respond to me. But no, really, this song gives us such a deep insight into the minds of each individual character. We get Benny's use of entering business school, contrasting to the salon lady's spending spree and getting out of town and getting makeovers. We hear Usnavi's common sense. You can't see it, but I'm making quotation marks around that word. But yeah, his plan to make money by setting goals and using the winnings to rebuild his pop's place in the DR, gifting the shop to Sonny when he leaves. Whereas Sonny has other plans, teaching the audience about gentrification and the improvement of the barrio itself. Each individual wants something different and would use the money in ways that benefit their lives, continuing to build on their sueñitos. But the movie expands more on the celebration and remembrance of cultures, the positives outweighing the negatives, and shines a light on immigration advocacy as well. Little details in the movie scenes, like the shrine to the DR that Usnavi keeps on a top shelf in his bodega, show that the creators of this film wanted the cultural celebration at the forefront. In a flashback, or should I say flash forward, scene where Usnavi is telling the narrative to the kids on the beach, they have a moment where one of the girls recites a list of female figures of Hispanic heritage, and Usnavi applauds her for remembering all of them, quoting that there isn't enough Hispanic heritage focus or focus on other cultures' historical figures in school nowadays. Additionally, a clip from the song Carnival del Barrio allows for the embracement of identity and self-discovery as far as culture is concerned. I actually found this audio on TikTok before I even knew about the musical, but I loved how the lyricist took one girl's multicultural heritage and helped her create a name and identity for herself.
Whatever comes into your head, just so long as you sing.
Oh, my mom is Dominican, Cuban, my dad is from Chile and PR, which means I'm Chile, Dominican, Rican. But I always say I'm from Queens.
Actually, now that I mention it, the entire song allows for the celebration of culture. The entire community is together during this song, led by Daniela, the main salon lady. She tries to reunite the town and bring up their spirits after both the death of Abuela Claudia and the third day of the heat wave and blackout. And in doing so, she gives everyone a chance to sing their hearts out. And in this clip, it's Carla, her lover's, turn. Carla shouts out about having all of these culturally identifying factors and making up a term for them, but also, in a fun, enthusiastic way, explains how she always forgets that part of her, just mentioning that she's from Queens whenever she's asked. This song holds a special place in my heart because at the end, there is this moment where they go through all of the community's flags and give each culture their chance to shine and be celebrated by the other cultures. Everyone comes together to celebrate who they are, where they've come from, and it ends with this great power restoration, ending the blackout. Besides the great power restoration, we have a great romantic reunion as well, and this is where it gets juicy.
You abandoned me.
What are you talking about?
Snappy all night, you barely even danced with me.
Don't make me laugh, I've been trying all night. You've been shaking your ass for like half of the heights.
Real nice.
You really give me a chance all evening. Do I get another dance?
I'm leaving.
Vanessa,
I gotta go.
don't walk away from us tonight.
I don't need anything tonight.
During the blackout, we get this powerful and electric argument between Usnavi and Vanessa, the main couple, as they argue over how much attention each other are getting from the other. Originally, they went to the club together, but when they got to the club, he was nervous and he couldn't seem to make the right move and let her go dance with other people, even though she was clearly doing it to make him jealous, so he danced with her. As I said, there are a few romantic relationships throughout this musical, as it's more of a drom-com, encompassing the tropes of dramas, romance, and comedy films all in one. Did I coin that term? Drom-com? Yes, I think I did. The title song begins it all, with Benny and Sunny teasing Usnavi about Vanessa and him being too afraid to do anything, so Sunny asks her out for him. Then we get the rekindling of the childhood lovers, Benny and Nina, who had broken up when Nina went away to college, and are now re-exploring their relationship in the song When You're Home.
I thought I might find the answer out at Stanford, but I stare out at the sea, thinking, where am I supposed to be? So please don't say you're proud of me when I lost my way.
And can I say I couldn't get my mind off you all day? Now listen to me, that may be how you perceive it, but Nina, please believe that when you find your way again, you are gonna change the world, and then we're all gonna brag and say we knew
While this song is kind of her ranting to Benny about all that she thought she could be and how much of a failure she has become, it's at the same time he's reassuring her that everyone is still proud of her because of how far she has come and nothing will change that. In this specific scene, she's admitting that she thought Stanford was where she was supposed to be, but now doesn't feel like that and doesn't want the reassurance that it'll be okay. Rather than making her angry, he gives in. Says, fine, you don't want me to tell you that it'll all work out, then I won't. But I can tell you how much I've missed you, and this is where we see her expression change. She realizes where she's supposed to be, and we continue to see their romance develop throughout the movie, with When the Sun Goes Down being their actual couple song, where they admit they're together and share a loving kiss. I've kind of already touched on the bad of romance, but as I said before, this film does a good job of putting some negatives into the mix, but ultimately outweighing those negatives, like the arguing, stubbornness, and misunderstandings of relationships, with romanticized moments of peace. Speaking of romanticization, this movie also gives us the fantasization of getting out and following your dreams, like the internal monologue songs It Won't Be Long Now by Vanessa and Breathe, sung by Nina, as mentioned earlier. In the Heights celebrates the culture and romance of this little community in New York City, which is already a heavily multicultural state, and many other news outlets have also picked up on this. The producers agree that we need positive stories of all cultures, and at its core, this movie is about the conflicts of trying to juggle the traditions of multiple cultures, as well as the pressure we have to do better on behalf of our parents. While I couldn't get him for an interview, I read an article by a man named Richard Rosario, funny coincidence to Nina's dad, Mr. Rosario, that talked about how overjoyed he was to see his hometown represented on a screen. He too is of Dominican descent and was so happy to see places he grew up going to represented on the big screen. Quote, when seeing familiar and beautiful views, I felt pride and elation. It felt like we finally made it and were reminded our stories matter.
You always remind me where I belong. So come through, yeah, find me and play me my favorite song.
Overall, In the Heights is about coming together regardless of culture or background to celebrate who you are, where you've come from, and where you dream to go or what you dream to become. It's a drom-com of romance and multiculturalism and is a great example of representation in the mass media and in the Hollywood industries. Like a typical rom-com, the community comes together to celebrate and remember, even in the midst of tragedy and struggle, and the producers maintain that importance of representation for today's future generations. Okay, y'all. That's it for today's episode of Bella's Broadway Breakdown. Thank you for listening to my inaugural podcast episode. Join us again next week where we break down another musical, Hairspray. Make sure to subscribe to my podcast so you never miss an episode. Bye!